under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Amendola.
Yes.
Ms. Amendola. Here. Mr. O'Brien.
Here.
Mr. Phillips is absent. Ms. Post is absent, and Ms. Whitesell is absent. Mr. Hayes.
Here.
Mayor Bloom.
Here.
Manager Tramp.
Here.
And Director Bezrowski.
Here.
Okay. Before we get started, I wanted to bring to your attention the two slight adjustments to the way we're going to actually run the meeting. You'll notice that for the citizens, the first citizens' comments that we're going to have, we're going to ask that you reserve your citizens' comments only as it relates to the agenda items so that we can get through the agenda. Anything else outside of the agenda items, we're going to do at the end. Okay? And second, you'll notice that what we normally would have done before is if we would have all the committees would discuss, and we would hold the voting until the end. That seemed a little disproportionate, right? Why not vote right after we're done discussing something? So we're going to discuss what we need to discuss, for example, under Public Works. You know, the various motions here. Immediately upon finishing the discussion, we'll just vote on it and move to the end. So there won't be a normal business agenda at the end. It's going to basically put more in line with where we do the discussion. Try that for a while, see if that works, see if it has a better flow to the meeting. Okay? I'll entertain approval of the bill list dated September 8th, 2014.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion on this item? Hearing no discussion, roll call vote, please.
Mr. Amendola.
Yes.
Ms. Amendola. Yes. Mr. O'Brien.
Yes, with the exception of 400.11.
And Mr. Hayes.
Yes. I'll entertain a motion for the approval of the minutes, August 11th, 2014, and August 25th, 2014.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion on the minutes for either date? Hearing no discussion, roll call vote.
Mr. Amendola.
Yes.
Ms. Amendola. Yes. Mr. O'Brien.
Yes.
Mr. Hayes.
Yes. All right, so we've come to citizen comments. Andrew, I see you're talking about the community garden.
I know, but I don't see it on the agenda, so I better not.
You will, we'll ask you to speak then at the end.
Okay.
Thank you. All right, so let's go right into the administration item. The garbage contract RFP is underway.
Right, so the contract, the RFP is being drafted now. It'll come to council in October, and or later this month in September, and we hope to award in October with respect to starting up the contract first of next year.
Excellent. Any questions about the garbage contract for the manager, for Rob? Okay. One other item under administration, I did not get it to the manager in time, but I'll share it now. I'm going to ask the manager to put together a motion to put out for RFP a review of our solicitor, a change of a solicitor. So to basically ask for if there's anyone interested in serving the crafting community as solicitor, for him to draw up the RFP. The RFP will serve as a motion, and then we'll advertise, we'll get bids in, and potentially switch solicitors upon reviewing the bids. And expect Mr. Abe to participate in that process as a potential candidate to stay as our solicitor. We're not doing a motion now. We're just he's just going to draft it up for the voting meeting at the end of the month. Okay.
Yep.
Excuse me, question, is that for next year?
No.
It can be
Is that an at-will position?
Yeah, that contract can be terminated at any time, and we can re-engage at any time. We have to transition some things. Obviously, the solicitor has some ongoing, pieces of work that he does for us, but nothing I don't think that we can't transition mid-year.
So this does not include our labor attorney, it's just for the solicitor.
I'm sorry, say that again?
Does not include our labor.
No, the labor attorney, cross that bridge if we come to it, at another time. But no, this is just for the solicitor that attends our meetings, our general counsel. Okay, budget and finance. So the first budget meeting is going to be held on October 20th. We talked about that at the last meeting, agreed on the schedule. Any discussions on this item, if everyone still can make it? It's the first of several.
Did we say that at 6 o'clock?
6:30.
6:30.
And there is a folder on the cubby, and I guess Deb, Ms. Grasso, Ms. Hall will be adding things to it for your references. So check that periodically.
Okay. Next item, pension, the contribution reduction / elimination of consideration request for police. Is this on here for you to speak to, Fred?
Actually, that was
It is.
for, I'm sorry, I thought Mr. Phillips was going to speak to it.
Oh.
I spoke to him earlier. There was a meeting with PNC I was not aware of, and so I did not attend.
Okay.
So I'm not up to speed on what's going on here. I mean, initially I look at it, I think it's a contract item that should be discussed whenever the contract is. It's not. Well, I don't know. I can't speak to it because I don't know. So we table it
It was
till.
the pension advisory committee that met. It wasn't public safety or anything like that. It was the advisory committee. There's 2 members of the police department, one from Public Works, myself, and 2 members.
Public Works?
One from Public Works. This is the whole pension, those pension plans.
Oh,
Right, they're separate plans, but they met with PNC, they handle both pensions. So it was a meeting to review the standings of both pension funds. But the police are the ones that specifically asked for it because they would like to see if their 5% contribution can either be reduced or eliminated. I believe that started almost 10, 12 years ago. You were on the force then.
Yeah, why isn't it a contract then?
It's in the ordinance, it's in the pension ordinance. It can be taken out or put in, and it's actually part of the Act 600 as well.
And this
It
is,
would need an ordinance to
this is
change.
their contribution,
Yeah, they contribute 5% of their salaries.
and they all want to reduce it.
At one point, determined that our funds weren't quite sound, they were a little low, and now that they are quite sound now, they want the council to consider either reducing the contribution or eliminating it. We're waiting for an actuary report on that for you to look at and consider.
yeah, maybe if we can look at that and see what's.
If the actual.
I think
Okay.
Mr. Phillips just really wanted to let you know that there was a meeting, this is being looked at, and wanted more information.
Yeah, there was never action to be taken here. I think, I thought you were bringing us to the speed, and I thought you went to the meeting, Fred. It was actually Mr. Phillips. So I'm sorry to ask you to speak to this since you weren't there.
No
Tom
problem.
can speak to this one, at the next meeting. We don't have to take any action.
And the Public Works team, they want to leave it as is.
Public
This
Works
is
does
only
not
for police.
contribute.
Oh, they don't even contribute.
And Mr. Phillips and Ms. Weitzel are on the advisory committee. So that's why it was.
Did she go to the meeting?
She wasn't able because it was held at 6 o'clock. She couldn't make it. We were here till about 7:30. She didn't make it.
So it was Mr. Phillips and you and 2 police officers in the
And-
bank.
And PNC Bank.
Okay.
All right. The next one, I'm sure this was, Ms. Phillips, or Ms. Post was going to speak to this one, the Parks and Recreation, the doggy paddle event.
I know a little bit about it.
You want to speak to that? Was it a success?
Yes, it was. 118 dogs.
Oh, my goodness.
And they had a great time, beautiful weather, and they ended up making about $1,470.
Oh,
Any saves?
Let me see.
Actually, our lifeguards were
We actually did have a save.
Karen Joyce and Mary Lutzmacher.
Yeah. I saw Mary, she said she was quite tired.
Yeah. We also had to change the procedure a little bit to help some of the dogs get out of the pool. There was a change this year, so to help prevent the saves. Just to give you some background.
How did the ramp work?
Great.
yeah.
Fantastic. Use them.
This next one, I'm a little lost why this is even on here. Arborists to evaluate problem trees. Is this, this isn't coming from council. What is this on here?
There's a letter. There's a letter in your file there
All right.
from the
Park and Shade Tree.
Park and Shade Tree people.
Yeah, they have approximately $6,800 still available in their tree planting, tree removal line item.
And I met with members of the Shade Tree Commission, President, and actually, I can recommend that we do something with that. And when an arborist come in and do an evaluation of certain trees that could be hazardous in locations. I'm not professionally trained in the tree field, and I agree with Shade Tree's recommendation to move forward use some of the funds that they have available and bring an arborist in to do some tree inspections and
On borough property.
on borough property.
But are they asking
even-
us to be the, kind of shepherd it, right? They're funded and they can hire an arborist on their own. Are they asking for additional funding? Because even if they ask for additional funding, how they spend it, I don't really want to get in the middle of how they spend it.
They're asking us to consider adding a line item to the budget specifically for an arborist.
For 2015, right?
Mhm.
Why would we, why would it be necessary, and this may not be a question either of you can answer, right? But why would we want to allocate funds to the Shade Tree Commission and specifically state how that gets spent? Why not, if they're asking for additional funds, that's a fair ask, right? Well, let's give them additional funds, but whether they choose to hire an arborist next year, the year after, the year after that, or the year after that, I mean, that seems like we're getting a little bit into the minutia of what the purposes of the Shade Tree Commission is supposed to do.
Oh, I understand, and really, I think that's the way to go, but it's giving the Shade Tree Commission direction, and they're asking for the additional funds, I guess, for 2015, and they're letting council know where those funds will be spent.
Back in the early 2000s, we actually had an arborist, and he was available anytime they had questions. He came in and worked with Duquesne Light when Duquesne Light came in to do a lot of their vegetation management.
Again, just being a little new to this, I think the Shade Tree Commission depends on Duquesne Light to look at and evaluate trees that are, borough trees that are in the power lines. But after that, they're sort of looking for somebody they can call on a regular basis to come out and evaluate trees that are actually, can be considered hazardous, or
So
evaluation of certain trees.
an arborist on retainer,
Right.
so to speak, rather than, you know, if a situation develops, then that person, arborist, would be called and say, you know, evaluate this tree, what do you think we should do with this? Or is this something that they're gonna go through the whole borough, all the borough property at once?
Not thinking specific.
I believe eventually, and my recommendation to the Shade Tree Commission is to do that, an inventory, do a tree inventory, to check the conditions on trees, the borough trees throughout the municipality, and actually do an inventory and log in the conditions of those trees. I think it's useful information, and something that can be documented and filed, and that way you can develop a plan how to deal with those trees, whether it's a 3-year plan, a 5-year plan, or even a 10-year plan for the future, and budget the right amount of money to address the trees that you need to address.
All right, so I'll ask the manager, Mr. Tran, let's cue this up for Deb, right? It looks to me, I want to get her opinion on whether or not we should have different line items for this, or whether or not we just want to fund the Shade Tree Commission with what we fund with them, and what they decide to spend on is still up to them, rather than allocate it here in 2 different items. And then it also looks like they're asking for additional monies for flower garden locations and additional money for startup costs for a community garden. All legitimate requests, but ones that I want to take under during the budget meeting. So let's find out, is it a total of 3,000, and whether or not she thinks that we should, you know, align these to different items, or just put it in the general fund for the shade tree.
Okay.
I think some years too, they used the whole budget because we've had like a lot of trees come down in winter storms and that. So I think if they use that whole budget, they would still like budget available just for an arborist. So I think that might be part of it.
Okay. Well, we can, yeah, I mean, it's just, if the money's there, then they can spend it however they want, and we can move the monies around, right? I think this might just become more of an accounting issue than anything else. But let's talk about it underneath the budget, right? The goal here is to make sure that they get funded to the adequate amount of money that they need to do the function that they're serving in the borough, right? Okay, let's go into Public Works. So in Public Works, there's a winter services agreement with PennDOT. I'll entertain a motion to adopt resolution number 2014-15, whereas Borough Council has authorized the execution of the 5-year winter traffic services agreement with the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania Department of Transportation.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Is there any discussion on this item? All right, hearing no discussion, roll call vote, please.
Mr. Amendola?
Yes.
Ms. Amendola?
Yes.
Mr. O'Brien?
Yes.
Mr. Hayes?
Yes. All right, next is the Inlet Rehabilitation Project. I'll entertain a motion to award the 2014 Inlet Rehabilitation Project to Nyando Construction Incorporated in the amount of $52,150 as received and recommended by Gateway Engineers.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion on this? Just a little background on this for the public. We have, over the course of the last couple of years, you probably have seen our catch basins have been under repair. There's been several that we have fixed. We didn't get to all of them in previous years, so this is just a continuation of that work. There's no other discussion? Roll call vote, please.
You know what, I do have a question. Our street department is not capable of doing any of that work.
They did do it a few years ago, but it was a slow process.
In previous, and this is for you to evaluate, Rob, but a cost analysis was done of, specifically by Jamie when she took over, at what time was down for our crew to do it, how long it took them to do it versus contracting this out, and the finance of it was contracting out was much cheaper.
Okay.
But always open for reevaluation. All right, roll call, please.
Mr. O'Brien.
Yes.
Ms. Amendola.
Yes.
Mr. Amendola.
Yes.
Mr. Hayes.
Yes. Okay, Thomas Street Sewer Separation Contract Award. I'll entertain a motion to award the Thomas Street Sewer Separation Project to Nyando Construction Incorporated in the amount of $94,300 as reviewed and recommended by Gateway Engineers.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion on this item? A question was raised by a resident in attendance who happens to have a property on Thomas Street. I believe that this was, as I said very prior to the meeting, a part of the consent order for the EPA to make sure that in a 10-year storm we don't discharge into the creek. I'll ask the manager to get with Gateway and find out what, if any, impact, cost, or inconvenience there is to the residents of that street so you can inform your tenants appropriately. All right, I'll get you the name of the resident after the meeting. Is there any other discussion? Roll call vote.
Ms. Amendola.
Yes.
Mr. O'Brien.
Yes.
Mr. Amendola.
Yes.
Mr. Hayes.
Yes. Okay, public safety, addition of no parking signs on the southerly side of West Steuben Street between Crafton Boulevard and Duncan Avenue, 2 blocks. Who's speaking to this? The mayor.
There have been a series of problems down there with vehicles on the south side of Steuben Street between, let's say, Backbone and Duncan Avenue, parking on the sidewalks, I mean, not above the curb, but actually vehicles pulled totally up on the sidewalk so that pedestrians have to walk in the street. And I talked to the chief and told him that, you know, that's a violation of the section of the vehicle code of the cars parked on the sidewalk, they're to be tagged. There's also a requirement in the vehicle code, if there's curbing, that the vehicles to be parked within 12 inches of the curb on the roadway. Now, what that does is create a situation where the cartway becomes strained together, both easterly and westerly, because of the vehicles parked on the roadway. And what happened was that the motorists or the residents decided, well, they didn't want their car hit, so they would just walk on the sidewalk and make the people walk in the street. Okay, so what we're recommending is with the chief, and we did contact the PennDOT, and the community or the borough has authorization to erect parking signs without PennDOT approval on that on the state highway we're talking about. Because that is that's 160 state highway. So we're asking council to add into an ordinance to prohibit parking from Crafton Boulevard to Duncan Avenue on the south side of Steuben Street. And that would actually complete the project, because I believe that there will be no parking on Steuben Street from the Thornburg Bridge all the way up past Grace Street, or up to Grace Street. And so I'd like, you know, council to take a look, talk it over, get it get it in the ordinance that, and to take care of that.
Okay. Any questions for the mayor?
Is it the same vehicles parking there all the time, or is it just a collection of different?
Well, it's generally the same vehicles
Mhm.
were parked, the same, the people that, that live in that area. And there is back street parking on the south side. There's an alley that runs between McCormick Street and Duncan Avenue. And there is the vehicle, or the homes between McCormick and Backbone have parking on the rear side of those buildings. And now, as far as on the north side, I believe, and that's why I'm kind of putting this out to council, is that everybody on the north side of Stupid Street has off-street parking also available to them. Some people will have available, but for convenience purpose, they park on the street.
Mhm.
So you don't think it would greatly impact them?
No. But I would like to, this ordinance doesn't have to go through tomorrow. In other words, put information out that that the borough's looking to do this, and ask the people to, if there's complaints or comments about it, to appear before council and bring those complaints and concerns up to the council, so we can, be fair about doing this.
Okay. All right. All right, let's move on to ordinance. One item under ordinance is the new stop signs that we discussed at the last meeting. I'll entertain a motion to authorize advertise adoption of an ordinance to install stop signs at the following intersections: the intersection of Lawson and Josephine, and the intersection of South Linwood and Promenade.
So moved.
Second.
Any further discussion on this motion? All right, hearing no discussion, roll call vote.
Mr. Amendola?
Yes.
Ms. Amendola?
Yes.
Mr. O'Brien?
Yes.
Mr. Hayes?
Yes. Last committee item is comprehensive planning. This is typically spoken to by Ms. Weitzel. Do you have anything to speak to on this?
Nothing other than I updated Councilman Weitzel about the status of the grant applications and rescoping the project and moving that project forward. We'll go back to council as we have things revised to reflect the communities that are still involved in the project and repurpose the grant applications.
Okay.
I have a question under ordinance. I see in our packet that we have the letter regarding the stop signs that we just voted on, but then also the issue that was at Crofton Boulevard and McCormick. So have we reached out to the resident and about those?
We have an update.
Oh, sorry.
Let's talk about that now then. Good.
Do you want to?
Sure. After that last council meeting and after the site clearance issue was discussed, I actually traveled down McCormick and Crafton Boulevard with the ordinance officer. The resolve actually was to move the stop sign up closer to the intersection, taking the pine tree out of site clearance. So we bypassed the tree, and there was a bush that was removed by the property owner. That has been done and completed. I'm happy to say now if you pull up to the intersection of McCormick, the site clearance issue was addressed by the property owner in the borough, where there now is proper clearance, site clearance on the roadway.
So there's already a stop sign there?
There was a stop sign on McCormick site plan. We were talking about trying to pull one off Crafton Boulevard.
Yeah, they want to stop, the request was to stop in both directions because the people on McCormick couldn't necessarily see down
Gotcha.
Crafton, so this prevented any
So now
problems.
there's no need for a stop sign on Crofton Boulevard?
Right, the site plan
And the
issue.
bushes have been removed and everybody's safe?
Maybe someday we can talk about a speed bump there.
I want to commend Dave Morgan, the ordinance officer, and Rob for going down there and taking the initiative to,
They
resolve that
the
issue.
problem, yeah.
It was, and they did it quickly and efficiently. And, so.
And actually, the property owner responded, was very
Positive.
thoughtful, positive, and had no problems with the removal of the bush.
Excellent.
The tree might have been a problem, but the bush itself.
Speed bump.
Well, I mean, we don't usually get positive feedback, so that's excellent.
Yeah.
Problem resolved, done.
In the least complicated way as
Right.
well, right? So that's a win all the way around.
Thank you.
Okay. So now we'll go into citizens' comments. Andrew, please come to the microphone, state your name and address.
Hello, I'm Andrea Markey. I live at 38 Marion Street. And I had one of my new friends from the food pantry come check out my garden the other day, because I keep talking about it with her, and all of you are welcome to come check it out as well, my home garden. First, I like your new meeting format. It's really awesome, seems very efficient. And in the spirit of giving, positive feedback, I had a great meeting with Rob and John, who also kind of pointed me in a better direction that will give, I hope, a simpler road to my goal of having a community garden somewhere in Crafton. I also wanted to just update you guys that I went to the informational session for the Allegheny Grows, which is a really awesome grant program. It's even more robust than I had at first thought. And just, so Grow Pittsburgh does community gardens in the city of Pittsburgh, but there is, outside of the city, Allegheny Grows handles that. And it's beginning its 6th year, and thus far they've developed community gardens in Millvale, McKees Rocks, Penn Hills, Bellevue, Wilkinsburg, Natrona, Clairton, Coriopolis, Homestead, and Mount Oliver. And to my knowledge, all of those are still going, so they not only get you started, but they give you a good plan for sustainability. I need to get back in touch with Dan Tobin from the Allegheny County Economic Development. And I also met the borough manager of Tarentum, who is really excited himself about starting a community garden where he is. I don't know if you guys know much about Tarentum, but it's maybe not the most happening area. But they have put in a farmer's market in the last few years, and with the improvements they've made, they actually attracted about 120 new businesses to Tarentum. So I would love for something like that, although maybe not on that scale, to start happening here in Crafton. I may be too late to get this grant, this fall grant. The deadline is September 26th, and what I need, and if I miss it, it's going to be okay, but I would really love to get it. At least 6 organized and motivated garden leaders got them. A suitable site for gardening. They want a flat and accessible space greater than 500 square feet that gets 6+ hours of sunlight a day and has the potential for growing healthy plants, so like not a parking lot. Written permission to garden on a lot that is owned by the municipality, the county, or a nonprofit organization. An established organizational partner, which thanks to John and Rob, they kind of pointed me in the direction of the Parks and Shade Tree Commission, and Mary Luxbacker said they have my revised proposal and they're totally on board. So this could be part of the community garden function of the Parks and Shade Tree Commission. I did just jump into the rec board meeting and told those folks about it, and they got really excited. And then there's also the other thing they want is the ability to install a municipal water supply at the site. And if you need to buzz me out because I'm taking too much time, let me know. But an example of what Allegheny Grows does for material support, and this is for a sort of a fake garden, but put up temporary rodent-resistant fencing, cut and remove sod, top off garden beds with soil compost mix, install rainwater collection system, construct a compost area, provide seed and seedlings, construct a shed, provide tools, provide signage with garden name and names of partner organizations, put up a bulletin board. And then educational and technical assistance could consist of assist the garden committee to develop a long-term site plan and organizational structure for the garden, offer growing and organizing assistance to the garden members and leadership through regular site visits and communication, coordinate volunteer work days, lead some workshops, test soil for contamination. You get the idea. So if we could partner with Allegheny Grows, they actually just help you do all that. They act as a project manager And then the Western Pennsylvania Conservancy steps in if they need help with water and all of that. So I guess I would just keep my fingers crossed that somehow this could get on to be a vote before the end of this deadline. If I can't make it, I can apply for a spring grant from them, which is somewhat less comprehensive, and it has to be for an already existing garden. So I would have to, you know, if it takes too long for us to figure out, yeah,